Good morning. Today is August 31st, 2020, and it is the 150th birthday of Dr. Maria Montessori. I'd like to share this book with you today. It's Maria Montessori, a biography for children, written and illustrated by Rayma S. Hayes. Maria Montessori was born 150 years ago on August 31st, 1870. She was born in the village of Caravelle, Italy, which is shaped like a boot, a country in France and Europe. Her mama, Renelde Montessori, and her papa, Alessandro Montessori, were very proud of their baby daughter. Renilda looked at her beautiful child and thought there was a special spark in the baby's eyes. Maria spent the first 5 years in this village. This was over 100 years ago, and things were very different then. People had a much different style of clothes. The women wore long skirts and high-button shoes. The men wore vests and waistcoats and bow ties. There was no running water in the house, so women carried water in jugs on their head from a fountain in the village. There was no electricity, so people used candles or oil lamps to see by after dark. There were no cars, so in order to travel from one place to another, they walked or used horses and wagons. Most of the buying and selling took place in the market on a village street where people brought dishes, vegetables, cloth, or whatever they could grow or make. Very few children went to school. Most children were sent out to work as soon as they were able, selling eggs or buns in the market, working on the farm, or helping take care of the smaller children. Almost everyone worked because almost everyone was poor. Very few people went to school, so very few people could read or write, even the adults. People that could read and write their names would use X for a signature if they couldn't write their names. Maria's family was much better off than most families. Her papa had a good job with the government, and both her papa and mama could read and write. Maria looked forward to going to school every day. Maria was a girl who loved to learn. She was curious about life and asked a lot of questions about everything. Her mama thought this was a good sign of intelligence and encouraged her by helping her find the answers to her questions. Maria also liked to help people less fortunate than she. She knitted for the poor and always tried to be thoughtful, helpful, and kind. Maria had a quick temper and would immediately defend something she believed in or someone she thought was being treated unkindly. When Maria was angry, not many people were brave enough to look her in the eyes and tell her no. When Maria was 5 years old, her father took a better job in the city of Rome, which is the capital city of Italy. She and her mother packed up their things and moved to Rome with her father. They lived in an apartment. She liked city life because there were many interesting things to do and many interesting people to watch and talk to. She also liked the city because there were lots of children around. This was important to Maria as she was an only child. She had no brothers or sisters, and her mama was her best friend. Maria was 6 when she started school. She was very happy to be in school, even though the schoolrooms were dreary, dirty, cold, and overcrowded. All the boys and girls had to sit still in uncomfortable chairs at desks all day and listen to the teacher repeat the same lessons over and over. There were not enough books, paper, or pencils for all the children. Maria would sit at her desk and dream of a school which was warm and clean and bright. She imagined a school where children could move about freely and explore things of interest. She could not understand why the teachers did not try to make school more pleasurable. A backache from her uncomfortable chair usually brought an end to her daydreaming. Maria was a smart child who loved to learn new things, so she tried to ignore the terrible atmosphere of her school. Most of the children that were fortunate enough to go to school at all only went to the 3rd grade. After that, the children went to work or stayed home and helped. The children that were lucky enough to go beyond 3rd grade were separated after that grade, a school for the boys and a school for the girls. Maria went to the girls' school until she was 12 years old. At this age, very few children continued school. Those that did were almost always boys. The girls stayed home after that, and if their families had enough money that they did not have to work, they learned to become proper ladies and practice sewing and cooking and tea making. This is what Maria's papa had in mind for her. Maria had other ideas. By age 12, she had done very well in school. She made the decision for herself to continue her education. She decided to go to technical school, which was for boys only. She told her mama about her decision. Her mama saw that special gleam in Maria's eyes and agreed that it was a great idea. Together, they told Papa. Maria's papa was very upset. It was time for her to become a proper young lady, and that was that. Only boys went to technical school, and there was no need for her to know any more. When she grew up, she would marry and have children and keep house, said her papa. These were the things she should prepare for. Mama watched that special spark grow in Maria's eyes. With a lot of determination and a little temper, Maria and her mama together convinced her papa that Maria was a bright and special girl who should go to technical school. So she did. Technical school was also a dreary place, but Maria did not mind too much because she was there to learn. There was one other girl in the technical school, and the principal set special rules for the two of them. They could not eat lunch with the boys and could not play with the boys at recess. The boys were not always kind to the two girls. Nevertheless, Maria was a good student and studied hard. When technical school was finished, Maria made the decision for herself that she would go to college and become a doctor. Maria told her mama of her next big decision, and as usual, her mother thought it was a great idea. Again, they broke the news to her papa. He was even more shocked than before. More school, college, Maria becoming a doctor. This was unheard of. In those days, men went to college, and certainly no women had tried to become a doctor. Her father warned her that it was time for her to take her place as a proper lady. No more school for Maria Montessori. For all Maria's and her mama's coaxing, Papa would not change his mind. He became angry and stayed angry for a long time. It made Maria very sad, but it did not stop her from setting a goal to be a doctor someday. Maria applied to medical school to become a doctor. The president of the college said, "No women. How can this be?" asked Maria. "I want to be a doctor." "No women," said the president. "Thank you very much, sir," said Maria, "but I will be a doctor," and she left his office. The special spark in Maria's eyes was very bright. She went to see the Pope, who is the head of the Catholic Church for the whole world and who lives in Rome. The Pope is a very respected man, and everyone listens to what he has to say. Maria told him of her problem and asked for help. No one knows exactly what happened, but Maria was the first woman in Italy to enter medical school. In medical school, Maria was the only woman. Once again, they set up special rules for her. In those days, medical school students learned how to be doctors by studying cadavers or dead people's bodies. The medical school did not permit Maria to work with the cadavers at the same time as the male students, which was during the daytime. Instead, she could only work at night by herself in the laboratory using candles or oil lamps for light. How unfair she felt it was that she must do her work all alone. She often had questions, but no one was there to give her any answers. One night, she was very tired of working so hard, and she went outside for a walk. She felt discouraged and thought about giving up trying to finish medical school. Then a strange thing happened. As she walked along, she saw a poor woman carrying a little child. The child was keeping itself busy by playing with a strip of bright red paper. Maria followed the woman and her child so she could see what the child did with the paper. Ideas began to spark in Maria's mind. Her heart filled with courage, and she decided not to give up. She went back to the laboratory and her work. She continued to study very hard, and in 1896, she graduated from medical school and was Italy's first woman doctor. When Maria graduated from medical school, she was asked to give a speech. Her father came to the ceremony and listened to his daughter with great pride. He felt ashamed about being angry at her. He could see that not only was she a doctor, she was a proper young lady. Mama just smiled at that special spark in Maria's eyes. She knew Maria was just beginning. Maria was now Dr. Montessori. She accepted a job at a hospital in Rome. One of her duties was to visit the insane asylum. There, she found mentally challenged children whose families couldn't take care of them. These poor children were called idiots or feeble-minded. No one knew what to do with them. They were kept behind bars in rooms with no furniture except for hard wooden benches. They saw no one but each other, and they had nothing to play with. Maria's heart went out to these unfortunate children. She spent as much time as she could with them and longed to do something to help them. One day, while Maria was there, a nurse brought food to the children. The nurse told Maria the children were greedy and dirty. "Why do you say that?" asked Maria. "Watch," said the nurse. "After they eat, they throw themselves on the floor to pick up the crumbs of bread, which they put in their mouths. It's disgusting." Maria looked sadly at the children. Then she looked around the empty room. "Oh, these poor children," she thought. "They are not greedy or dirty. There is nothing else for them to do except gather crumbs after their meals. They have made up their own amusement because they want to have some kind of activity." Maria had an idea. She had heard of the work of two French men named Sigan and Itard. These men had worked with deaf children and had designed special sensorial material for the deaf children to use. They were called sensorial because we learn with our senses, and these teaching materials were designed to help children who were without the sense of hearing. Maria thought that if Sagan and Itard had helped deaf children with these materials, perhaps she could help the mentally retarded in the same way. She went to France and studied the work of Sagan and Itard. When she came home, she made some of these sensorial materials available to the children in the asylums. The children were very happy to have something to do and have someone who cared about them. They played with the materials Maria gave them, and they also learned while they played. They learned by touching with their fingers, looking with their eyes, listening with their ears, and smelling with their noses. They learned so easily this way that Maria made more and more things for them to do. Maria was delighted in sitting and watching the children. She sometimes stayed with them all day. She noticed how much the children changed and how much they learned. Other people heard of the change in the idiot children and asked Maria if Maria would not let the children take an examination with the normal children of the same age in school. Her children took the exam with the normal children and did better than the normal children. Everyone was amazed. People thought Maria was wonderful. "You have performed a miracle," they told her. Maria did not think about that. If these poor children have done so well, how well could normal children do if we educated this way? She asked herself. With her special teaching materials, Maria was able to change the life of mentally retarded children in Italy. She was asked to set up schools for these children to educate them in this special way. She worked very hard and trained other people to understand her ideas and become teachers. The children in Italy were no longer thought of as idiots or hopeless cases. They had much better places to live and were able to go to school and become the best they could be. They were given the opportunity to do their best because Maria Montessori cared about them. Maria wanted to know more about working with normal children. How could she? In Italy, children stayed home until the age of 6, and then they either went to work or they went to school. The time was the early 1900s. Poor farmers and their families were leaving the countryside and going to the city of Rome to find jobs. Big apartment buildings were built for these people to live in. For the first time, mothers went out of the house to work and make money. The children who were too small to work or too young to go to school were left home alone. Some of the big apartments were in a part of Rome known as San Lorenzo. This part of the city was poor and dirty. San Lorenzo was known as the worst part in Rome. There were about 50 children in one apartment building who were left alone all day while their mothers worked. They ran wild through the streets and apartments, throwing rocks, breaking windows, riding on the walls, and doing anything other naughty things they could think of. No one knew what to do with these children. The owner of the building was worried that if something did not happen soon, the children would tear down his building. He remembered Dr. Montessori and the work she had done with the Down syndrome children and wondered if she could help with these wild children. She contacted Maria and asked if she could organize a place for the children to go and play and learn while their mothers were at work. This was the opportunity Maria had been waiting for, to work with normal children, even if they were on the wild side. She went to San Lorenzo the next day. She was shocked to see how terrible the streets and apartments looked. She was given a grim, tiny, dirty room with no money to buy toys or make materials. But this did not stop Maria. Maria started work on her own little room. She employed a woman from the apartment building to help her. She asked friends to collect money for toys and materials. She had carpenters build child-sized furniture so the children could sit and work comfortably. No one had ever done this before. She cleaned and painted her little room and made it shiny, bright, and pleasant. She called her room Casa dei Bambini, which is Italian for House of Children. On January 6, 1907, she opened the doors of the Casa dei Bambini and invited children in. At first, the children did not know what to do. They had never seen a place so nice with everything which was the right size and height for children. The children were very dirty and ragged when they started school at the Casa dei Bambini. Maria decided that they should first learn how to take care of themselves. She began by showing the children how to wash their face and hands, how to blow their noses, how to comb their hair. She showed the children how to wash and mend their clothes. She taught them how to sweep and mop the floor, how to dust, and how to wash and dry dishes. Before anyone could believe it, the children were keeping themselves clean and tidy. They were keeping their little room at Casa dei Bambini clean and tidy too. Maria began to bring the sensorial materials she designed for the Down syndrome children in the San Lorenzo Children's House. They enjoyed them and learned so quickly from them that soon Maria was staying up very late at night and making new materials for the children to use the next day. The children played with the pink tower, the red rods, the cylinder blocks, the movable alphabet, the spindle box, and the sandpaper letters. They learned to count, read, write, draw, sing, and take care of themselves and their school. Maria and the children were very happy. After a while, people began to hear of the change in these wild children of San Lorenzo. The owner of the apartment building and members of the government came to visit Casa dei Bambini. They could not believe their eyes at the change in the children. When they found out the children could count, read, write, draw, sing, and take care of themselves, they thought it was a miracle. They told Maria how wonderful she was. Maria did not think about herself. She asked herself, what if all children could be educated that way? They would become the best possible adults they could be. They could make the world a better place. People all over the world heard about Casa dei Bambini. They wanted to know more about Maria's school and her special way of teaching children. They called this way of teaching the Montessori method. For the next 20 years, Maria wrote many books on her observation of children. She traveled all over the world training teachers in the Montessori method. She opened new Montessori schools almost everywhere she went. At night, she would stay up late and study, read, and make notes on what she had observed and learned from her travels and from her work with children. The time passed. The decade of the 1920s began, and Italy had a new ruler named Mussolini. He was very impressed by Dr. Montessori and her schools and declared that all the schools in Italy must follow the Montessori method. Maria returned from her travels and was delighted to be in her home country again. She began training teachers, having materials made, and started schools all over Italy. Mussolini declared Maria the ambassador of children. Several years later, though, a terrible thing happened. World War II began and there was fighting all over Europe. Mussolini was not a wise ruler. He joined the war on the side that wanted to rule the world instead of the side that wanted people to be free. Mussolini wanted everyone in Italy to agree with his ideas. By 1934, Maria saw that Mussolini wanted her schools to turn children into little soldiers. Maria wanted her schools to help children to be free and become the best possible human beings they could be, and this had nothing to do with being soldiers. She refused to go along with Mussolini's plan. This made Mussolini very angry. He closed all of her schools. Montessori schools were already being closed in Germany for the same reason. In Berlin, they even piled all her books in the town squares and burned an effigy of Maria on the top. Maria left Italy and went to Spain. This made Maria very sad because she did love her country. She knew that her work was more important now than ever before the World War had started. Her schools would educate the children for peace by helping them to learn to love one another and the earth. She knew that if children felt these things, they would grow up to be peaceful adults and there would be no more wars. In Spain, once again, Maria trained teachers and opened schools and wrote books. When fighting began in Spain, she went to England and then to Holland. She liked Holland very much and decided to make it her home. She went to work training teachers, opening schools, and writing books as she had done all over the world. But the war in Europe was getting worse, and Maria worried she would have to stop her work. When Maria received an invitation to travel India to start schools, she accepted. India was on the other side of the world from the fighting in Europe, and she could continue her work and be safe there. In India, she lived in peace at Adyar in Madras with peaceful people at the Theosophical Society. She began training Indian teachers and opening schools for Indian children and writing books on her observation. In India, the children once again worked with the sensorial material. There was no need for teaching them to lace or tie their shoes, as they wore sandals and went barefoot. And there was no need for knowing how to zip a jacket because India is too warm for jackets. Instead, she taught them to wrap saris, make garlands of flower, how to place flowers in their hair, and how to put sandalwood paste on their forehead, for these were the customs of the Indian people. Wherever she worked with children, she always included the customs of that country. Even though the language, dress, and customs and culture were different from Europe, Maria felt at home and loved by the Indian people. She took to wearing the native sari dress. The Indian people also loved her and liked her ladylike, gentle, but firm ways. Maria stayed in India for almost 7 years. She was in her late 70s and still working hard. While living in India, Maria developed her cosmic education plan. She realized that if children were to be educated for peace, they must understand they are a very important part of the earth's well-being. They must learn to love and appreciate all living things and understand that we are all dependent upon each other. When the children understand these things, she thought, they will naturally grow up to be loving and peaceful. Today, there are thousands of Montessori schools all over the world and hundreds of schools to train Montessori teachers. There are Montessori schools on every continent except Antarctica. These children are learning by working with the same materials you work with in school. If you were to visit Montessori school in another country, you would find many similar things to our school. You would feel right at home and know what to do even if you did not speak the same language. Even though the language and dress and customs and culture may be different, you could still work with the pink tower and the red rods. Now you see why Maria Montessori is with us every day at school. We still use the same materials that the Down syndrome children used nearly 110 years ago. We have many other things in our classroom now, but in many ways we are still like the very first Montessori school, Casa de Bambina. Now that we know that there are thousands of Montessori children working and playing all over the world, wouldn't it be wonderful if we all started writing to each other? We need a Montessori society for children. We have Maria Montessori to thank for the schools we have today. She is here with us in spirit, as she is in Montessori schools around the world. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about Maria Montessori. I'm very thankful to be a Montessori teacher and guide and help on this journey to find peace and continue her legacy. Have a great day and happy birthday, Dr. Montessori.